What's up, my brother?
What's up, Alpha Warrior? We're on Badlands when Josh is wearing his co-founder hoodie.
I needed to be cold so I can put on a co-founder hoodie. I'm here in SoCal. No complaining though. The weather out here is just
The weather.
the weather out here is just like perfect. It's perfect, man. Like it's no complaining.
Well,
I saw some
fuck you.
people that were that were like, "Hey, you're not live on YouTube." So just so you guys know, and we are live on YouTube now. We'll be going live on YouTube at the tail end of the intro.
Yes.
This is just to deal with some of the issues and things that go on with that platform. So just to make everybody know, yeah, you'll start seeing that with some of the shows that me and Josh do together. We don't want to be the ones that create the strike.
That's right.
So,
But man, we talked Sunday on Q After Hours here on Badlands, and we made some predictions of things that were potentially going to happen. And I know we do that every Sunday, but I didn't expect a lot of them to start actually formulating and coming true. Well, I did actually expect it, but we are watching the world unfold right now, and I'm just going to say this right now. There are a lot of pundits out there talking about Iran and about the failure of the United States of America, how it's all for Israel, or depleted missiles, or Iran's missile strategy is going to kick in the United States, all of this stuff.
America's on the brink of losing.
So when you're dealing with what I would call 4D chess, unrestricted warfare, there are moves and there are counter moves, and there's game theory. And what's going to happen next, I think, none of these pundits, none of these people who are doing all these podcasts, these big name podcasts, and saying like, "Oh, the United States, there's a lot more deaths and all this stuff." And firstly, Alpha and I served in the military. When people die overseas, unless it's a classified mission, that is typically public knowledge. And the command is notified, the next of kin are notified, and you can't hide hundreds of deaths. It doesn't happen like that. So people who are pushing that narrative, they're full of shit. Secondly, the US is running out of long-range missiles. Dude, we spent trillions of dollars over 2 decades in Afghanistan and Iraq. I assure you, we're not running out of armaments. Next, that Iran is the IRGC is completely not fractured, and they're going to come back and they're going to go to the ground game. There's going to be a ground invasion and all this stuff. It's not going to happen because game theory. What's about to happen next, nobody who's just looking at this from a singular military perspective was able to see. And we called it Sunday Night Alpha. We said, watch. Russia is going to enter stage left. China is going to enter stage right. They are going to come together. Now, what are 2 countries that could go into Iran right now in the midst of a ceasefire or ending of kinetic strike campaign and say, hey, listen, we want to help negotiate peace. And then they bring the United States in. They all have a little dialogue. China and Russia potentially go on the board of peace. And now you have complete stabilization within the Middle East. And China gets access to the Strait of Hormuz. The United States, Russia, China, the United States, and Iran control the Strait of Hormuz, that it can't be closed down.
No more sanctions on oil in that area?
No more sanctions on. And what we see started yesterday. Russian sanctions are being lifted. Russia came out and they said, hey, we're shutting off all of our oil to the European Union. The European Union said, oh, well, interesting you said that. We're removing all of our sanctions on you. And then the United States is easing sanctions on Russia. Russia's going back to the dollar payment clearance system. Putin and Trump have talked 2 times in the last 3 days, and they came up with a plan. And I'm telling you, people aren't seeing this. This is not going to be, there's not going to be a ground invasion. There's not going to be a ground war. It's not going to be a 10-year or 1-year war. I think Israel wants that. I think Israel's waiting for the ground war. Remember, they activated 300,000 of the reserve troops for a ground game. I think Trump, just like he did back last year, is going to rug pull them and say, nope, China, Russia come in. We're all negotiated. Board of peace. Iran, you're invited to the board of peace. Let's all have dinner. Let's all make cupcakes. Everything's fine and dandy. let's move on with our lives. And that's going to come about with a curtail that, number one, no nuclear ambitions for nuclear weapons. China and Russia will probably be the ones to regulate that inside of Iran. Secondarily, is you will see a lifting of sanctions on Iran, and that's going to be huge for them. Now, if you look at Iran and the new kind of infrastructure leadership that's coming into place, and I don't care that it's Khomeini's son, just think about this. What's the best thing for your country right now? 10-year war with Israel and the United States, or getting sanctions lifted and entering back into the world and having your people thrive?
Kind of obvious on that one.
Kind of obvious on that one. And then Moshaba Khomeini can come in and be like, listen, I know we want retribution. Our time will come. Allah, Allah, Allah. But right now we need to heal. We need to get over this, and we need to get our country to where it needs to be. And I think he's controlled by Russia, honestly. That's my guess. He is controlled by Russia, and that Russia, China, United States are going to go in, they're going to negotiate peace, and this will be over in less than 30 days.
I like the sound of that. Now, with that, there is something that we got to be paying attention to. The initials of that are FF, but we will get that on the other side of the ads because we got to make sure we keep you guys around. So first on deck, you've heard us talk about these guys on multiple shows because they really are that good, folks. Major companies like TurboTax, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Apple, banks, insurers, hospitals, and retailers are all using AI powered by your personal data. Names, addresses, phone numbers, jobs, family details scraped from the data brokers and people search sites without your consent. They call it innovation. It's really them profiting from your information, leaving you exposed to cyber criminals. Scammers use these profiles to target you, especially during tax season with fake returns, IRS impersonations, and identity theft. AI makes scams faster and harder to detect. Most people do nothing and stay vulnerable. Patriot Protect is the only anti-AI tool available right now that actually removes you from the system. Patriot Protect deletes your personal information from Google and removes it from over 240 data brokers and people search sites, the exact places AI systems and scammers pull from. Once removed, Search and Destroy protocol keeps monitoring and wiping new exposures automatically. Take control. Don't let AI and bad actors use your data against you, especially during the most common season for identity theft. Use Patriot Protect and take your data back. Use promo code Badlands for 15% off all plans at patriot-protect.com/DEFCON. And then you're definitely going to recognize this next one because it comes from one of our own. The filthy savages of Badlands Media helped me make the launch of Burning Bright Publishing a scrumptious success in 2025. That's a heck of a big word someone chose right there. And now we're back with all the rights to the original IP due to your support. Following the limited edition leather-bound hardcover, Saving Soul, the first book in the Swordpunk trilogy, is now available in digital and audio formats. The audiobook was produced in partnership with Sound Booth Theater. This isn't some AI read aloud crap. It's full-on audio theater production featuring a cast of professional actors, original music, and high-end studio polished, and I think it represents the best vision for Swordpunk aesthetic and the best package for this audience, bringing the story of Akio Prince and his war against the deep state to life in vivid detail. So, if you're into cyberpunk ninjas, epic fight scenes, 80s action pulp, and criminal conspiracies, pick your audio copy of Saving Soul today. Head over to badlandsmedia.tv/swordpunk to listen to a free sample and download the full audio production for $25. And remember, we're in a war of stories and we have the better writers. Some interesting, exciting stuff that's right there. And you'll see both those links just below us. So I said, and those links will be down in the description on the different platforms. And shout out Catherine11, now monthly supporter over here on Badlands. Welcome to the family. So everything you articulated, I subscribe to that. We've had multiple conversations of that. Mm-hmm. But the deep state, the most evil that walked this world, Josh, can't just say, all right, you got us. So I think, and I think definitely Trump, the good guys, the white hats, whatever you want to call them, they are positioned and ready for the biggest false flag.
Can I preface this?
Absolutely.
Let me preface this, okay? So I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm going to bring two things up. The first one right here, and I'll pull it up in 1 second. This is Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. He says, Iran does not want to harm ordinary Americans who overwhelmingly voted to end involvement in costly foreign wars. Okay? But keep that in mind. So the one thing that I just noted in my last show that I did, the Daily Dose, was the last year of warfare from Israel-Iran 12-day war to this conflict that's happening right now that we don't have a name for yet is very interesting. So we are finding out that the United States Navy is contacting hours in advance the Iranian ships that they're about to blow up and bomb. Okay? So it's saying, hey, get all your people off. We're going to bomb you. We're going to sink you. Not only that, is there facilities, if they're non-military facilities, if they're surrounded by civilian areas, they are notifying, hey, Tehran, bombs are going to drop in this vicinity, evacuate the area to limit civilian casualties. Okay? Iran, when they're sending missiles over into Qatar, they're saying, hey, we're sending missiles over, make sure that you remove any civilian casualties that potentially could come. So the thing about U.S. deaths are in the hundreds, if not thousands. This is nonsense. There's actually communication going back and forth, right? I don't want to say this is a movie, but it kind of is kind of crazy. But there is a direction by both sides to limit casualties, limit civilian casualties, not necessarily military casualties, but civilian casualties. Iran foreign minister comes out and says, hey, look, we don't want innocent people to get killed in this conflict. This isn't against innocent people. And I think that's very important to understand, because just the other day, we got this doozy that came in. And we remember this, that there was a number channel that started broadcasting the other day from Iran. And so you get U.S. intercepts Iranian message that may activate sleeper cells. Okay? So my thoughts on this. The head was cut off of Hezbollah. Hamas was absolutely annihilated. The Houthis don't have the infrastructure. Yes, don't get me wrong. There's massive amounts of those types in the United States that came over the southern border. If they were activated here in the United States of America, I don't think that they were activated by Iran. And I'll say that very, very precisely.
I'm tracking because we're on the same page.
Okay.
So
So what happened when Israel cut off the head of Hezbollah? Well, they eliminated it, and then new people rose up. Now, do you think that Israel is going to plan a 15-year campaign with blowing up beepers and coordinating through cell phone towers the movements of all of these people into hospitals, and then bombing the hospital specifically to kill these people, and then waiting for their meeting and then taking them all out? And that they don't have replacements already infiltrated through the Mossad or the Shin Bet, already in Hezbollah to rise up into the leadership? Then you're crazy, because that's exactly what happened. In other words, Israel took back over Hezbollah. Okay? This is why when Israel and the U.S. started bombing Iran, you're not seeing Hezbollah rising up and invading Israel. You're not seeing massive amounts of conflict happening between Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis, and Israel. It's almost nothing. And that's a clear indication that Israel has something under control in that Middle Eastern region. Now, I said that Trump is going to rug pull Israel once again with this conflict. Because remember, Netanyahu came out last week, and what did he say? He said, hey, Donald Trump, my intelligence tells me that you're communicating in back channels with Iran about a ceasefire. Is this true? And Trump's like, what the hell are you talking about, baby? But it is true. Well, it is kind of true that Israel is being kept out of a lot of the talks and negotiations, specifically from high-level people within the IRGC, within the clergy that are calling to the United States saying, hey, we'll give you everything you want. We want this to end, right? But Bibi doesn't want it to end. Bibi wants this to go. Bibi wants a war. He wants ground troops on the ground invading Iran. That's what they want. And I believe Trump's going to rug pull him. So how do you ensure that that doesn't happen if you're one of those types of people or countries? And I'm just saying is you could potentially see an activation of sleeper cells in the United States of America. But my thoughts are it's not going to be Iran. But this is the prime opportunity for that. But then also is what other intelligence agencies are involved in this. You have MI6, you have, the clandestine CIA. And I'm not talking about surface level CIA. We're talking about the deep state intelligence apparatus that need this, because that type of destabilization in the United States of America right now, when everything's about to drop, is exactly what they need to buy themselves time or get out of Dodge or destabilize the system and overthrow Trump. So I agree that something's coming.
To this conversation on the back channels that Trump's having with the civilian part of the government or the clergy, I think we got a hint of how that's happening. You remember, I want to say it was like 3 days ago, 3 days ago, plus or minus a day. You guys know the way everything blends right now. But they're questioning Hegseth and Rubio, as a matter of fact. They both got this question. And they're like, hey, Iran's getting intel, and that intel,
It's coming from
Russia. And what Hegseth and them say, well, if it is, we know everything everybody's saying, and we know why people are saying it. Like, it was a very precision response.
I think let me try to find that post, because you're spot on right.
And so while you're looking for it, and so when he said that, I was like, that's an interesting way, because normally they make fun of the enemy, and this wasn't. They didn't say, hey, they're like, this was it was a strategic response. And so as I contemplated, and I started thinking, okay, there is talks going on. That means Russia's probably that middleman right now. Russia's the one that's probably communicating with the US to, like, hey, move civilians from this area, and then doing the same on the other end of it. And I think that's important, because if we were hypothetically to find ourselves in a situation like the modern day USS Liberty, if we had open channels of communication, they would know exactly how to stop that. Trump could immediately get on the phone with, let's just say, a prime minister and says, look, don't do it, because if you do, the world's going to know it's you, because we already have communications going on and we know it's not them.
Well, and they've already given out all the hints like you're talking about here, is that Trump has made it publicly known for the last few days. He's been talking with Russia, Vladimir Putin. And so I want people to see what we're seeing. So number one, let me bring up the Hegseth video.
CBS News has 3 sources telling us that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran on U.S. positions and movements. The average American might hear that and think that's a big and dangerous deal. Is it?
Well, we're tracking everything. Our commanders are aware of everything. We have the best intelligence in the world. We're aware of who's talking to who, why they're talking to him, how accurate.
Pause it real quick, Josh. He didn't say no.
Nope, he didn't say no. Now, I want people to see that, because what did I just say beforehand? That there's communications between the U.S. Hey, we're going to strike this place. Well, who do you think is relaying those messages? Now, did we also get another indication from the Trump administration that everybody calm down, everything's okay, don't worry, no matter how bad it gets, just understand that patriots are in control?
Indeed, we did.
And this is from the VFA 87, which is right off the Carter, that's in the Middle East right now. This is a symbolic representation. Guys, we got this. Trust me. Okay? At least this is how I'm seeing it. So I think your assessment is spot on right there, that Russia is the intermediary proxy right now, communicating with with the United States and Iran, and troop movements, right? Intelligence of troop movements. I bet that was leaked by the Trump administration specifically, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to show the enemy, hey, we're in communication with Iran. Russia is already talking on our behalf with them. We're coordinating all of our strikes. We're not trying to kill civilians here. And if there's a false flag, exactly what you said. They're going to damn well know it. It didn't come from Iran. It didn't come from Russia or China.
And this leads into the conversation of why there's a specific element of the RGC that's being targeted and not the civilian one. Because you can rewind the clock as far back as you want to go, but that current power structure that existed in Iran was being controlled by the intelligence apparatus. And that part of the government is what's getting wiped out. And that's what's allowing these conversations to unfold the way they are. And I mean, when they came out, do you want to play was it a video? I'm trying to think of the one where we're like, we talked about that Sunday. And so somebody posted it and tagged us. They're like, you guys said this, or maybe was it you? I don't know. All my stuff's blended, man. You know what I'm talking about? The one where it's like, hey, we just talked about this on Sunday night and now it's happening. Because I know a bunch of people were tagging us. I'm just trying to remember which one it was.
They tagged us. Let me see here. Let me go through my notifications because I might have missed it. But I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff, but this is one of the specific things that we talked about so it was just, there's a release the other day that Russia and China are entering in to help bring about peace in Iran. And this came out yesterday. And I think that's so critically important because we literally said this Sunday night.
We talked about the pathway could potentially look like something that has Russia and China on the board of peace.
Oh,
I mean, that is huge.
You posted this video and you said sovereign alliance. Let's bring this one up.
Yep.
Can you tell us more about your call with Russian President Vladimir Putin today?
Yes.
What did you discuss?
Yes, I had a very good call with President Putin. We had a lot of people on the line from our side, from his side. We were talking about Ukraine, which is just a never-ending fight. And look, there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together. But I think it was a positive call on that subject. And we obviously talked then about the Middle East. And he wants to be helpful. I said, you could be more helpful by getting the Ukraine-Russia war over with. That would be more helpful. But we had a very good talk, and he wants to be very.
Can you tell us more about?
And not only that, is Putin laid out a strategy for the Middle East of how to bring peace fast. And I'm telling you, Trump's going to go with it.
Imagine a situation where Putin is on the phone with Trump, and Trump's like, Putin, what would you like, Putin? You know, I got to look good for everybody, so let's talk a deal here. And Putin's like, hey, you give me these two cities right here in Ukraine, and we'll lock that down, and then we'll lock down Iran for you guys, and everybody walks away happy. How about that? And Don's probably like, Putin, that's a good, you're a great negotiator, Putin. You're a great negotiator. When we knew that was going to go down the entire time, is this now they get to sell those deals because those are the finalizations to bring peace in the war with Ukraine and Russia and with the conflict that exists right now with Iran and freaking everybody.
Yeah, Putin sends proposal to Trump on how to resolve the Iran war. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov says Putin brought ideas for de-escalating the conflict in the recent call with Trump. Moscow says it's ready to reduce tensions in the Middle East, but that any solution would require coordination of multiple parties. So there's that. Now let me go back here and see if I can find the next one. It's a little further down. But China just came out. Xi Jinping just came out. You got to remember, Xi and Trump are meeting next month. Very early next month.
He said he wants to bring peace to the Middle East.
That's exactly what Xi came out and said Monday. It's like I'm just joking. It's like they watch the show and they're like, oh, these are some good ideas. Let's talk about this Monday.
These two knuckleheads are on to something. Let's just drop this in the headlines.
And right there, China says it's ready to restore order, tranquility, and peace to the Middle East.
There it is.
I mean, listen, there is a way that this ends where the United States benefits, Iran benefits, Israel really benefits kind of in their primary complaints, but not through their agenda. And China even benefits because right now, China is having 2 of its 3 legs of its energy triangle dismantled. And then what the news that you've also have is that Russia is moving back to the US dollar settlement payment system. So moving away from the BRICS, well, not moving away from the BRICS settlement payment system, but going back onto the dollar. This is part of removing the sanctions. EU just removed sanctions. US is removing sanctions. Then you have US exploration in the Arctic with Russia, gas deals with Russia. This is huge. In other words, that alliance that we talked about before is now forming. And what that does is that tells China, get on board with this multipolar world or you're fucked. And basically Putin's picking sides and he's picking Trump. And if anybody remembers, anybody's been listening to me for any time, I said there's 3 countries that matter in the world: the United States, China, and Russia. The United States and China are in a massive arms race for artificial superintelligence. The foundation of that is resources and energy and control of energy corridors. Trump is winning that game. Venezuela, Iran, Russia. That's China's 3 corridors of very, very cheap energy. It forces them back on the open market, of which Trump has defense alliance and defense cooperation agreements with the Middle Eastern countries that sell oil to China, which means that if China got out of line, he just needs to put proxy sanctions on China with oil, and it's really easy to do. It's one of the other reasons why they want to control the energy corridor of the Straits of Hormuz. So
now, let me interject right there, because a lot of people, they'll hit me up. They're like, you always say that, the CCP is bad, but you guys also talk about this working relationship with Xi. And I think there are things there to support that exists. For instance, if you go all the way back to the beginning of last year, when Trump told Pam Bondi, hey, I want you to designate these cartels as foreign terrorists. And the second he did that was within the first, 72 hours. I think it was something like the first 2-3 days. The second he did that, what was that a signal for? Well, people like myself and Josh immediately came out and said, there's only one reason you would do that. And it's because you want to expand the tool belt that you can use to the Department of Defense, which became the Department of War. That's why you would designate them as that. We understood that. The other entity that understood that was the CCP.
mm-hmm.
So the CCP right then and there knew Trump's going to come after these cartels, which is part of the apparatus of one of the variables in what they accomplish. They could have pushed a lot of this stuff early to get Trump off his timeline, because I think not only are we seeing the battle of narratives, but we're seeing those battle of narratives that have to happen and with specific timelines. And whoever controls that timeline, that's a powerful, it's a lot of leverage to that. And so the fact that the CCP didn't force Trump early on that, I think is a revelation that Xi wasn't allowing that to happen.
Correct.
Because we saw a lot of things that ended up happening with China.
Now, onto that point is people are asking, well, how is China the good guy and the bad guy? And you're spot on right. But I want to give some kind of numbers to bring this into perspective. There's 98 million members of the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, that's almost the population of the United States. Well, 1/3 the population of the United States of America are members. So it's basically the Republican Party. But the Chinese Communist, it's 98 million. This includes government officials, military officers, state-owned enterprise executives, party cadres, and small business leaders, academics, and professionals. It's not just the voting members. These people all have some construction within government, okay? Then you have China's national legislature, comparable to Congress, okay? 2,980 delegates. That's a lot of delegates, guys. That's 10 times what we have in the United States. Then you have the CCP Central Committee, 205 full members, 171 alternatives. The Politburo has 24 members, and the standing committees have 7 members. And this isn't even getting into the PLA. So you have a massive government infrastructure. Then you have the hidden shadow government that operates in China, known as the Board of Elders. And this is Jintao, the former premier, who kind of runs this. And they are at war with Xi Jinping. And this is why you've seen 3 various different coup attempts. In other words, there's a deep state infrastructure that exists within China, and it's very, very real. Now, I don't know if you caught this. Did you catch Catherine Herridge's interview with General Charles Flynn?
I saw the highlights of it, but I haven't watched it.
Now, This is where the real world war is at. And these guys would absolutely agree with me on this. Okay. This is what Iran's about, but I want to play this clip real quick.
The Chinese Communist Party and its allies that have been linked to operations targeting U.S. critical infrastructure, so power, water, transportation. How extensive is the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration of American networks?
Yeah. Let me point to two operations that happened while I was out in the Pacific. So the first one was in, I think, May or June of 23. It was Salt Typhoon. And that right there, that operation there, a cyber operation, was to sort of see and make sense of what would happen if the United States military were to deploy. So a form of cyber reconnaissance being done by the Chinese. Follow that a year later with Volt Typhoon. Similar attack, only this attack is against telecommunications, metadata, and messages, right? Talk, text, all those kinds of things. And my point through telling those two stories is China is very good at this, and they are doing preparation of the battlefield or preparation of the battle space to disrupt, delay, deny, and confuse our efforts to actually be able to project power, secure ourselves in the Western Pacific, and then support our allies and partners in the region.
Okay, now understanding what he just said, that they're prepping the battlefield, preparing the battlefield. What he's trying to say here is that we might have great trade deals with China. Everything might look all hunky and dory, but the moment that we put our guard down, they want complete power. And what Trump is doing right now is limiting resource allocation to China and accessibility to resources to basically draw back their power projection globally. And he's doing a phenomenal job of it. So there's a news report that just came out the other day. 7.16% of all Iraqi oil refineries are owned by Chinese corporations and companies. Think about that. I mean, that's how China does. I mean, the majority of all of the rare earth mineral and mining throughout Afghanistan is owned by China and Chinese infrastructure, because right the day that the U.S. jet took off from Afghanistan after 13 U.S. soldiers were killed, a Chinese plane landed and the Taliban did a multi-billion-dollar deal for China to build out all the infrastructure. Now Trump is going through and dismantling a lot of that infrastructure, and good reason to it.
There is good reason to. And shout out Bradmaker62, gifted 5 subscriptions to Badlands Media. Thank you for that. You know, there's a book that Trump's read more than once. I think he says he's read it 5 times or 6 times, and it's The Art of War, Sun Tzu.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and why is that important? And why is it something that Trump's brought up for decades? It's not just the recent here. He's talked about that book for decades. And it's because Trump understands the battle space, what General Charles Flynn's talking about right there, that they're preparing for. And Trump understands you have to know you already won before you step into that battle space.
That's right.
And on the same token, and this is not shared in the book, but the opposite side of that understanding is you also got to know when you've lost before you step into that battle space. And this is the part that he's positioning China in. This is what he's making the CCP recognize is, look, you thought you had this 100-year plan, but we were better and we were smarter. And this is all the proxy shadow wars, the seen and unseen wars that have been going on, were all meant to get to that ultimate decision where China has to, the CCP has to look at it, kind of like what you're saying with Iran, is do we want guaranteed, self-destruction at best for us, mutual destruction, or do we go on with the ascension of all humanity and get into this golden age where we all prosper from this, and maybe 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now, we reconsider this global war, which probably wouldn't exist because of the ascension of mankind anyways.
Can I just read this one part of a post that I actually posted out there? In China's 100-year plan, China's model is unrestricted competition, not traditional conquest. This is the doctrine of unrestricted warfare. Economic leverage, supply chain dominance, technological capture, legal and institutional warfare, and information warfare. This aligns closely with the People's Liberation Army's doctrine of unrestricted warfare by Zhao Liang and Wang Jiangsu. The goal is to make military conflict unnecessary or unwinnable for the opponent. Trump has flipped the script. When it said military was the only way, this was the idea. In warfare, sometimes the moral and ethical framework has to be removed to ensure survivability. This is what is happening right now.
It's gorgeous.
Well, in the problem is that, you know, as Americans, we tend not to kind of see this, right? We tend to look at war as just war, and you know, we don't understand the changing dynamics, the sociological, the cultural, the geopolitical realignment that people fail to see a lot of this stuff.
To that point too, and this leans into the conversation with social media. People are propagandized to think that the only solution to what's going on in the world right now is kinetic combat.
That's right.
We got to choke each other out, and then whoever's left, you know, saying uncle, you know, will then become enslaved by the other one. No, but you don't see anybody on social media. And I'll tell you guys right now, go to social media tonight, spend 2 hours in this, you know, bar hop from virtual town hall to virtual town hall, and you tell me where you're going to come across a conversation where people are going to talk about stabilization of the entire world can make all of us prosper, and we can accomplish this without war, still exposing the apparatus of, you know, the mechanism of the globalists, the deep state, and we can actually do this without bringing us to World War III. Every group that has an agenda will not sign off on that, and it's because they have an agenda. You know, the people that don't actually want to go to war, like the reality, I'm not talking about combat missions, you know, isolated military strategy is needed, but I'm talking about full-blown wars. The people that don't want to go to that are the people that have been there, because they understand what it looks like. They understand the cost that comes with it. And none of us, and to the magnitude of where this would go, this is something that's not going to be on foreign land. This is going to be something that's on everybody's local news. It's going to be something that's on your homegrown soil. And what Trump's doing right now, this maneuver warfare that he's doing, is accomplishing us to get us to a point where we don't have to go to that.
Yep.
And part of this is the people that are screaming, you know, this tells me that people aren't, it's not that they're not ready. I just don't think people have given it a chance to accept the fact that you can have peace through strength. That is something that's very real. But because people are the same people that's screaming, we haven't seen arrests, we haven't seen arrests, we haven't seen arrests, you're not thinking about, you know, toppling the mechanism of all this stuff. And it blows my mind. It kind of sets us up for that video that I told you about earlier. Do you want to say something, any of that? If not, I'll play this video. It's about 2 minutes. And
no, it's spot on. You know what I'm going to say about that? Right there. Because that's a lot of the narrative that you're getting. A lot of the people that are saying that the U.S. is losing, everything like that, I think that it's a deeper ingrained kind of perspective that they want Iran to win because of, you know, what they believe Israel is. And I'm not saying that I don't disagree with a lot of people on Israel. Listen, you remember that bridge that collapsed in Maryland? I believe that was Israel. I'm not going to lie. I think that there's a lot of things. September 11th, I think that we need to ask some right questions about that pertaining to that country. USS Liberty, U.S. nuclear secrets, right? There's a lot of questions that I have about that country. But if Trump is in control of that country, which I do believe he is, and I've laid this out multiple different times of how Trump controls Israel, then I'm not worried about it at this moment. Now, do I think that they could wage some type of false flag? But I think it'll be the last false flag that they ever wage. At least that's my opinion. But go ahead and play your video.
All right, here we go. Let me bring this up on the screen, and then I will hit play.
Commentator says global conflict is controlled by one country. Another voice says the end of the world has begun. Someone else claims they already know who is behind everything. Something dangerous is happening in modern political commentary. Not just on the left, not just on the right, across the entire information landscape, some voices are no longer analyzing events. They are defending narratives. Psychologists have a name for this. It's called confirmation bias. Instead of asking what is the truth, people ask what evidence supports what I already believe. and then they ignore everything else. Intelligence agencies actually train analysts to avoid this trap because it leads to catastrophic mistakes. One of the tools they use is called competing hypothesis. Instead of trying to prove their theory correct, analysts try to prove it wrong. They actively search for evidence that contradicts their own conclusions. Why? Because reality is almost never simple. Geopolitics rarely has a single cause. Multiple motivations can exist at the same time. Economic interests, strategic interests, alliances, ideology. Sometimes an action that benefits one country may also benefit another. But when commentators become emotionally attached to a narrative, everything starts to look like proof of that narrative. Complex global events get reduced to bumper sticker explanations. So here is a simple caution. If you are listening to a voice you have trusted for years, and suddenly that voice stops questioning other possibilities, be careful. Because when someone claims to already have all the answers, you may no longer be hearing analysis. You may be hearing advocacy. The search for truth requires something harder: curiosity, humility, and the willingness to question even the stories we want to believe, including our own. My friends, we are all anonymous. Remember, question every narrative, especially the ones you agree with. Because in the search for truth, the most dangerous words are, "I already know the answer."
That's a good one.
I knew you would enjoy that one.
Well, and I mean, it goes into this psychological warfare domain that everybody is operating in right now on social media. And it's just filled with mass confusion, contradiction, propaganda. It's the Jews, or Trump is losing to Iran and we need to impeach him. He's going to start World War III. Or, and I'll even throw this out there, patriots are in control. Because all of them are narratives. And we can sit there and try to prove or disprove all of these narratives. Now, the people that know what's really going on, well, that's Donald Trump. That's Pete Hegseth. That's this administration. And see, the one thing that I think that at least we're different about than a lot of these other people is that we look at the 40,000-foot view of the geopolitical arena. We look at Russia, China, we look at Iran, Israel, we look at the United States. But then we also follow the actions of Trump, of Hegseth, what they're saying, what their words are saying, and then aligning that with kind of what's happening in the global domain to bring about a perspective. This is our perspective of the world. Now, here's the difference. When Alpha and I have been doing this, or even myself been doing this, and Alpha been doing this for like the last 5 years, we come out with that level of analysis, and then we're right. And then that's what does happen, or something very similar to that is what happens and unfolds. And anybody who's been watching this show the last year knows that. And the reason is because we don't allow confirmation bias. Oh, it's part of the plan, right? Part of the plan, man. No. We look at all different angles. And, listen, 4 months ago, I was screaming Israel. Today, I'm like, I think Trump's got it under control. I'm not too worried about that. But then tonight I'm like, hey, I think Israel, if there's going to be a false flag, I think it's going to be Israel, right? What I'm trying to say is that you have to take what all of these people are saying with a very, very thin grain of salt. And there's a lot of them out there that are propagating absolute nonsense. I went on my X profile the other day and I listed, you know who Scott Ritter is, right? Former Marine.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Scott. I've always kind of supported Scott's viewpoints on everything for maybe last year, right? But now he's coming out and saying this is a big L for Trump and the U.S. has depleted their missile arsenal and you're not seeing Iran's missile strategy. And I get it. He's a Middle Eastern weapons expert. He's wrong. He's wrong. And the reason I'll say that he's wrong is because the DOW strategy that they're going in with right now is for every one missile that Iran launches, they're going to lose a launcher and they're going to lose dozens to hundreds of missiles. And we said this weeks ago. And what had happened? Iran went from firing 300 to 400 missiles a day, hundreds of missiles a day, to firing 8.
And Trump has highlighted that.
That's right. And it's not because, oh, we're preserving our missiles for a longer war. No, they don't have any because they're being decimated because we freaking took bombs and sent them into their underground caves where they were storing their freaking missiles, people. So, you know, like when I hear this type of stuff, I'm like, who the hell's paying these people or just where they getting their information?
I think it's a combination of all of the above. You know, I've you know, there's some high-ranking Democrat influencers that I've gone at it with, you know, especially with some of these guys in Ukraine. But at the end of the day, even some of the ones that mean well, like the ones that aren't trying to push an agenda, I think one of the reasons a lot of, you know, these pundits or you know, people that do the analysis get it wrong is because they're only looking at it through the lens of the way we've always understood it historically. This is what the war was told. This is what everybody's side was on, and this is how we come to our analysis. The reason that doesn't work now is because you have to understand what's really going on behind the curtain. The historic data, I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but you have to understand that you're gauging historic data that was manipulated from the get-go. It was manipulated as it was happening, and it was manipulated as it was being researched. Like it's always been there. So you have to understand that those data points they're already putting you behind the curve. And I think one of the things that we do is we understand that there's historic data we need to pay attention to. There's this geopolitical conversation we got to pay attention to. But guess what? The conspiracy people weren't so crazy because there's a lot of legitimacy to that. And when you're able to put all that together, you understand that. The other part of it that's very important, I think what's helped us and our audience, you know, be very successful is we've always understood that this is a fluid operation. This is an operation that is designed with built-in contingencies. And so you have to be able to adjust to that when you see it. And I think Trump has it. He's done it that way, like on purpose. And he's been a mastermind at it. And we, you know, look at Colombia. There was a contingency there. It's, hey, we're going to go in and do it, or we're going to help you stay in power. We're going to get rid of the cartels that have been taking away a lot of your power, and you're going to help us with this stuff. And it's happening. I think we're seeing that unfold in Mexico right now too. And I think we will see things that happen, not necessarily militarily, but I think we're going to see certain placements that happen with Chile and Argentina. Remember that.
Agreed. And we'll get into this in a second. I want to kind of end on the Iran, China, Russia thing here real quick, but I want to bring about, you know, a real military analyst. This is a geopolitical analyst, Harley Lipman. And I want you to hear what he says here, because I'm kind of in agreement with a lot of what he says.
This progress in under 10 days is historic. You just heard the senator say he'd plant the flag, declare victory, and come home. Would you?
Oh, yeah. You could even add more as I was listening to the program. This is a strategic victory against China, because the Chinese leader told his military officials, be ready for war in 2027. Well, that is less likely now, because a lot of their oil reserves are now being cut off from Iran with what the United States has done. And China wanted to use Iran as a second front to distract America from Taiwan. That now is not happening, as the United States is taking care of Iran, so it won't be a second front. So this puts us in an advantage with China and makes war less likely. So I think that's a huge strategic benefit and outcome that nobody seems to be talking about.
We're talking about it. Literally, we've been talking about it. We predicted it, said it was going to happen. Well, holy shit. Now we finally got one military analyst that's in the big time that actually is talking about the truth. Now, you mentioned cartels.
I did.
So something interesting is happening here. Sunday night, what did we talk about Sunday night? Do you remember what we talked about Sunday night?
That was a long time ago, bro. A lot has happened from then to now. Throw me some hints, and then I'll pick up.
I'll let John Solomon throw you the hints. Remember you asked me for my predictions.
Remember
I said that we're probably going to see some indictments coming down here soon, and I said the first thing you're going to see is what? Declassification, right?
Yeah, we got into the conversation of potentially being Brennan.
we are going to be able to get, for the first time, I've been able to start processing these documents, large body of evidence that's in the intelligence community that raises concerns about foreign interference in our elections. That'll probably be the end of this week or early next week. The documents are explosive. They're really remarkable. And what's most remarkable is that all this has been kept a secret from the American people, possibly President Trump in some cases, until recently, of course, when his team told him.
Okay. That's point A, right? So now you're going to have, now he talks about these documents, and this is kind of interesting. So, bring this one up with Maricopa County. So there's like 3 of these with John Solomon, but they're really critically important to understand what we were talking about Sunday. Oh, I didn't bring it up.
But your take on Maricopa County, you're saying that what's going to happen is we're going to find out the Chinese had a major heavy hand in rigging election. What's your take on the raid yesterday in Maricopa?
Yeah, it wasn't really a raid. It was a grand jury subpoena, but they grabbed the stuff. There will be some search warrants executed in the coming days based on my reporting. They're looking at, in Maricopa County, it's a very technical thing, just like it was in Georgia. Did you follow state law? Because if you didn't administer a federal election as it was supposed to be under state law, you can be charged federally. It's just about doing the right thing and following the law. But above that, not in Maricopa County, not in Fulton County, there is an extraordinary review going on by the CIA director, the FBI director, the director of national intelligence, so Tulsi Gabbard, John Radcliffe, and Kash Patel. They have found a body of documents that I think will trouble all of us and probably will have a profound effect on the Senate debate over the Save America Act. A lot of senators are sitting up there saying, I don't know if I need to vote for this. I don't know what the politics is. Wait a second. When they find out that maybe voter identities in their state databases were penetrated by China and used in influence operations, that may change their mind. And so I think the debate in the Senate could be informed by what comes out in the next few weeks.
Oh man.
Here's what we're going to witness. I have no doubt in my mind we are going to witness this. There are obviously aspects of our government that are compromised and leveraged. Plug in whatever theory you have of what that leverage looks like. That if they pass the SAVE Act, they're done. That is a suicide move for them. If they pass it, there's no way they get elected. Ever. They know that. The globalist tentacles that are in our government knows if the SAVE Act passes, they're done. It's game over. It's cooked. This goes into the conversation we talked about right now about contingencies. I'm setting you up because I think you know where I'm going with this as a potential theory.
Well, it's something we already talked about.
We have. And this is why I keep telling everybody, Trump's going hard on the SAVE Act. Why? Because it's what we want. It's what we demand. It's not the have all end all, but it's a major blow to get us there. Like, we understand how important that is. And the more he pushes it, the more the court of public opinion gets behind it, that it now becomes an expectation, not just a wish, but an expectation. Now you talk about what Solomon says, that we're all going to see this and we're all going to be like, hell no, that's no longer an expectation. This is now a demand. We demand that this happens. Well, what happens when those congressmen vote no on it and they don't pass it? And Thune says, look, we don't have it. We can't do the standing filibuster. We can't. Does this give President Trump the court of public opinion to say, this is how we're going to do it, which ultimately takes us into the conversation of the Insurrection Act?
So I actually have a list of all the senators that are opposing the SAFE Act right now. And one thing that we've talked about in the past, this is something that we were aligning towards and talking about on Sunday, is the reason they don't want to vote for it. The reason why all of these documents. So you heard John Solomon right there. They found a tranche of documents. Guys, this is burned bag documents again. These were destroyed by the Biden FBI and DOJ. This has already been declared, and now we have them. Well, what was that? That's military is the only way. But this is also what I want you to see. Listen to General Flynn right here.
What are they going to find in Fulton? What are they going to find in Maricopa? What is the big kahuna here?
Yeah, I think we're going to find that there are people serving in Congress and serving in other state offices that didn't win those elections. So we have, just like Joe Biden, So we're going to find that they're going to find criminal activities, particularly in as they have in Fulton County and of course Maricopa County. But those are tactics of the broader strategy. But I think what we're going to find is we're going to be looking at the results, the real results, once we lay them out. And many of them have started to get laid out, particularly in Fulton County, because they're already down into the weeds of that. And we're going to see people that are serving in elected offices that were not elected. That's not a constitutional republic. That's a criminal enterprise.
Boom.
Who has been saying that word over and over and over? Criminal enterprise, Josh.
We've been saying that on this show. Well, and now go to Maricopa County. So what foreign nationals do we think are going to be involved in that? Well, who controls the politicians in Arizona? Cartels. The cartels were that intermediary of financing these politicians to keep them on the payroll, to allow those borders to be open. They put Katie Hobbs in office. And what he's talking about people like Katie Hobbs. He's talking about, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Gretchen Whitmer, Colorado, Polis, the Secretary of State. He's talking about members of Congress and Senate. So why are they not voting for the SAVE Act? Now you know why. Because there's a list of Republicans. And I got the list right here. I want to pull it up real quick.
While you're pulling it up, shout out Breadmaker, gifted another 5 subscriptions to Badlands Media. So thank you, Breadmaker62.
Now, I don't know if people understand how this works, but think about it as Republicans knew that the Democrats were stealing elections. And they were told, hey, we have this compromise on you. We can take you down and get you out of office. Or we can do the same thing to ensure your election. That nobody's ever going to take you down out of your own elections, because we're going to ensure that the process works for you as well. But if anybody tries to take us down, if anybody tries to do a January 6th event and try to vote for the non-certification of the election, you have to vote against it. You have to stand with us. And here you go. List of GOP senators that are not fully on board with passing the Save America Act via standing filibuster per Mark Meadows. Susan Collins, Tom Cotton, Lindsey Graham, Chuck Grassley, John Kennedy, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, Tim Scott, John Thune, Tom Tillis. There's a lot of them in here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is who's controlled and who's not? Who's holding out because they want an earmark put into the bill, right? Who's holding out because, hey, look, I don't like this one line item. It hurts my state. Versus who's like, hey, I can't vote on this. Like, literally, I can't, because if I do, I'm screwed.
Who's playing politics versus who's, I don't want to swim with the fishes.
That's right. And so this is the implications of what are coming down the pipe. And John Solomon is telling us, look, in the next 10 days, you're going to see a massive declassification of information. It's going to implicate foreign nationals, groups. Guess what? Guess what other country I think that you're going to find is involved in this? Iran.
They've hinted at
Iran had a part to do with the 2020 stolen election. Now, excuse me, General Flynn again, real quick.
Do you think Maduro is going to say anything on this, given that so much of the Venezuelan software, and I know you know this very, very well, was operated by his regime?
Yep. Yeah. The short answer is yes. And there's others that they have in custody that are also divulging great amounts of information for the first time, because they now know that President Trump means business. I mean, so yes, I think we're already learning a lot of things. And I think that is driving some of the things that we are seeing the FBI, the Department of Justice doing.
Do you think Maduro is going to?
Now, Maduro had the Iranian foreign minister on election night in Caracas watching the election be stolen. Just keep that in mind. There's a reason behind everything. And it's going to be, by the time midterms come around, it's going to be evidently clear that the 2020 election was stolen, that there are current senators, congressmen, governors, secretary of states, attorney generals, House members within state assemblies that were not duly elected. That the Joe Biden administration was a construction of foreign entities and a deep state political bureaucracy. I believe we'll see indictments and prosecutions before that time frame, before the midterms.
And Maduro is going to implicate U.S. government officials.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say, we've said it for a while, and I think John Solomon said that, I think it might have been today or even yesterday. Like, this is all coming to a head. And we said this, the timing of this is going to be strategically perfect for midterms.
That's right. And you remember we talked about this, that I said, dude, like, go back to our November, December episodes. I said that what you're going to see is you're going to see the Epstein file. You're going to Venezuela, then the Epstein files. And I said Iran will come up, Mexico. And then all of a sudden you're going to have election fraud, 2020 election. Then you're going to have FISA gate. John Sullivan right here.
Was there any evidence? We know the evidence goes to Merrick Garland, that the former attorney general was behind a lot of this. Does it go to Joe Biden himself? Did Joe Biden have any role in all of this? Real quick, if you can for me, John.
I think both Obama and Biden have to be, that question has to be addressed by the prosecutors. We know they sat in meetings in 2016 where they plotted out some of the Russia collusion investigation that would follow after they left office. I think they're looking at those issues now, and we'll get to the bottom of it. And I also will bring up Chris Wray. He presided over a large part of this. A lot of people don't talk about him in the same vein as James Comey. I think there's growing concern that what went on in Chris Wray's watch is very disturbing.
So Merrick Garland, Chris Wray, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, 4 names just dropped by John Solomon pertaining to this is kind of the overexpansion of the Fort Pierce, Florida grand jury that's going out. And this is also, we know subpoenas have been issued. James Clapper, John Brennan, Susan Rice. Now you have investigations into the Mar-a-Lago case where this stems from. And I said, all of this is going to start to coalesce together. All of it is going to, people are like, did you notice, Alpha, that the Epstein files, they just disappeared. Nobody's talking about them anymore. And I said, wait, just wait. Trust me, because now your Epstein files, Iran, then you're going to have 2020 election, then you're going to have FISA gate, and then the crescendo in the middle of the summer, it's all going to come together, and it's all going to intertwine, and it's all going to make sense.
2 words, folks. Go back to February of 25. 2 words: criminal enterprise, ongoing conspiracy doctrine.
That's 3 words: ongoing conspiracy doctrine.
Or two phrases.
That's 5. That's 5. That's 5
2
words.
phrases is what I meant. 2 phrases, right?
That's 5 words, 2 phrases, 2 sentences.
2 phrases. You can go back and you'll find those Marine Corps math, right? And why did we know? Because it's all we're looking at is a exponentially larger, small scale of what your local law enforcement does.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same concepts with federal terms, just expanded to far greater jurisdiction. But the process of how you do it is still the same. Why? Because a criminal is a criminal is a criminal. Doesn't matter how small they are or how elite they are. Criminal is a criminal, and that's what you're seeing here. And that's why when you saw all these influencers telling you the Russia hoax is a distraction to get you to stop talking about Epstein, that's why we said, no, this is how you're going to get the people involved with Epstein. And then we told you, and Russia is not going to be the only RICO case. And then you had Tulsi Gabbard come out, and she finally said a few months later, there's multiple RICO cases. And that is what you're seeing right here. These indictments, that have been coming and the ones that are going to come, because I still think Lisa Page and what's his name?
Peter Strzok.
And Strzok.
Strzok and Page, I think that'll come down. I think Wasserman, all of these guys are all going to come back into the fold. And this is, so I want people to begin seeing this. And this is kind of what Alpha's saying, is that as we approach the midterms, get through the primaries, right? So let's just say that the SAVE Act does pass or doesn't pass. It doesn't matter. You have the primaries. Now you have political candidates out there campaigning in their regions, in their districts. Then all of a sudden you have new Epstein documents, over 1.5 million still being held by the DOJ, and the intelligence files that are being held by the CIA. Let's just say some of those drop. At the same time that you have 2020 election fraud being indictments coming out, the same time that you have FISA Gate indictments coming out, the same time that you have peace in the Middle East and the Iran conflict is long gone, that you've named foreign adversaries that now have like, hey, you know, we did that. We understand. And Donald Trump looks like a freaking genius by mid-September. He looks like, oh my God, how did he pull all of this off? Like, he was right the whole time. And here's the thing, is it becomes undeniable. The same psyop that was worked with the Epstein files, for people who are maybe watching and who'd never seen this show before, we've laid this out. We were laying this out in real time as it was happening. When Elon Musk came out and said Donald Trump is in the Epstein files, we're like, this is a psyop. This is to get the left on board with the release of the Epstein files. This is to get Epstein to become a household name for people to know and understand who this man is, for the left to begin investigating, see who else is all involved in this, for when the real files do release, now it becomes undeniable of what was actually happening. The same thing's happening, though.
Let's pivot here.
Voter fraud.
Let's pivot to Epstein for about 10 minutes real quick, because I got a couple of tabs that I want to talk about, and you kind of set us up perfect for that, because these are the things that I think people aren't talking about enough. I'll bring this one on the screen right here. So you got the New York Post. This was on March 5th. So what's 5 days ago? DOJ to release more than 47,000 files, withheld Jeffrey Epstein files by the end of the week. Now, why does this matter? Because again, you're seeing the propaganda. Trump's hiding the files. Trump's hiding the files. We keep saying, no, there's not. There's a strategic release to this, and we've explained why to that. That moves us into this next one with, and actually, let me shift this because I actually want to play this video for you guys. Let me share it this way now. There we go. We're going to bring it back up. And so Nick Sorter puts on here, he goes, holy crap, Kristi Noem just testified under oath that Biden's regime was paying child traffickers. What's he talking about? Take a listen to this, you guys. Let me move it up and play.
Accompanied alien children were lost by the Biden administration, not tracked. We've located about 145,000 of them, and we've done that through the investigative work of our Homeland Security Investigations team. They are phenomenal at the work that they do, and they specialize in child trafficking, sex trafficking, and finding individuals that would perpetuate that harm against our children. The one thing that has been challenging is that under the Biden administration, the government paid sponsors in HHS in order to host these children. And those sponsors, many times, we found instances where they trafficked these children themselves. So under that administration, we not only had children that were in this country as a part of a program, the government was paying individuals that were knowingly trafficking them and abusing them. That has stopped. We have gone through and found these children and put them back with their families when we have the opportunity to do so, and with loved ones that will care for them. And I would say that even in one case, we have other countries where we've been working with them to get their children back home, where we've been prevented returning these families back and helping them to be reunified by activist judges. But we will continue to work to ensure that these individuals and these children that were abused by the trafficking over the border have the opportunity to be brought back to their families and to their loved ones going forward.
So some key points that she highlights right there is Biden administration was paying people for this. And what do we know? That the cartels were on the south side of this operation through the Mexico border, the Darien Gap. Well, what else do we know? Well, we know the cartels were deemed foreign terrorists. What kind of laws do we have if the American government is collaborating with foreign terrorists? Now, you can't go back hindsight and do that. But if these conversations and these collaborations were still happening in real time, one of the crimes that follows that is treason. It's just understand, they don't have a group of cartel guys that's like, oh, you're our human traffickers, you're our drug traffickers, you're our weapons traffickers, and you're our documents traffickers for all this. It's the same group of people that do all this stuff. So when these collaborations happen, it goes into the RICO case. So then the next one that I wanted to bring up, and this one goes to one of our fellow Badlanders posted this. Let me bring it up so you guys can see it. So Jordan drops this post. This was on the 6th. The Epstein victim, Sarah Ransom, admitted that she faked the story about having tapes of Trump, by the way. And it says Ransom was another imperfect witness. In the fall of 2016, she had suggested to the New York Post that she had sex tapes of a half a dozen prominent people, including Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, but couldn't provide the tapes when asked. Ransom told me that she had invented the tapes to draw attention to Epstein's behavior and to make him believe that she had evidence that would come out if he harmed me. So, is this saying that all the stories about what's going on are fraudulent? Absolutely not. But it's also saying that we have evidence that there are fraudulent stories in there, things that have been used to be weaponized against people. We have this one. Brazilian healer John of God, we talked about him like a few weeks ago, promoted by Oprah Winfrey as an inspiring figure of spiritual miracles, sentenced to 118 years for sexual rapes. Then we have this one. And this one I'm going to play because I want us to hear the audio on this. Even though we've talked about it and we've showed clips, I'm going to land the Epstein thing here for us to.
By the way, that's a Mandela effect with John of God. Because I remember him dying in jail like 2 years ago.
And I would agree with you on that one. So let's take a listen to what former President Bill Clinton says here.
I hate this, but because I don't believe I should inject anything. But I do not want to leave the impression, but since there was no follow-up question, the president never, this is 20-something years ago, never said anything to me to make me think he was involved in anything improper with regard to Epstein either. He just didn't. That's the truth. As I said earlier, the only conversation I had with President Trump about this was in the early 2000s. And I have no information that he did anything wrong. I just want it all out there. I want everybody to get it all out there and let everybody see where we are.
Bill doesn't mind people knowing that he got his dick sucked. So he's like, just get it all out there. It's okay.
I share all those different aspects because when you zoom out and look at all those together, what you see is the greatest trap to get Epstein where it needed to be for Trump to deploy it the way he wanted.
Yep.
Or these RICO cases. Again, we talked about it. I know I talked about it, and I know me and you talked about it when all the congressmen went in there to search the Epstein files. Each one of them, they didn't know it, but each one of them was given their own computer. That computer was pulled out, and all that history was saved by Pam Bondi's investigation team. It was a trap. This entire 12 months, 13 months of them screaming when me and Josh and a few others were telling you Trump is going to make them beg for Epstein and it's going to be a trap. I literally have that written in a post. This is a trap for them and they're falling right into it. And that's what you're seeing right now. And this is the panic because now you're going to have that unfold, the election fraud unfold, the Maduro coming out saying these people are going to get hit from so many different angles publicly that people are going to be like, holy shit, we need the SAVE Act. There's no way out of it. And that's, I think, one of the ways we are going to see the Trump card and how he moves into the next variable.
It's happening.
It's happening.
And, I know we talked about it Sunday, but Trump reposted April 4th, 2007, Kim Clement's prophecy. It's going to be biblical, people. Just understand that. It is being biblical right now.
Fired up, man. We got almost 15,000 people watching live on Rumble. Another 3,000 on the other platforms. So, just short of 20,000. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to, mine and Josh's analysis and assessments of the things that are coming up. And if you are new to seeing me and Josh, this is not the only night you will catch us. So again, Tuesday nights, we got DEFCON at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. That's what you guys are watching right now. On Thursdays at 11 p.m. Eastern, you have Overwatch and The Guardian. You'll find that on my channel or Josh's channel. That's down in the description. You search out the Alpha Warrior Show, or you could search out Red Pill's project on both these platforms. And then we move into Sunday night, and you guys will catch us on Q After Hours, and that's at midnight Eastern. All these shows are live, and I think you guys will enjoy the content in addition to all the other stuff that we do. Anything that you want to add before we get into Rumble Rants and Boosts? I did want to bring up, because you keep talking about it, one of the deltas for today is, and I know you're going to recognize this because, again, you said it. It's post 9/11. And let me zoom in on this so everybody can see it.
So guys, he asked me if there's anything else I want to add in, and then completely diverges to himself. You gotta love Alpha. It's just
because it's
okay.
something I know
way too
Josh
much
loves.
anyway, so it's okay.
Post 9/11 delta for today from 2018, and you've been hammering on this, man. There's a large enough audience that I don't know if you want to tackle it again, but March Madness.
Whether it's synchronicity, whether it's coincidence, whether it's this was planned, and what we're looking at is actual legitimized communications that were put out, what 2008 to 7-8 years ago. That is happening this week. By the end of this week or early next week, you are about to see mass declassification of evidence against the deep state about the 2020 election, about FISA-gate. It's coming. Drip, drip. Now we're coming in a flood. And so March Madness, and this is why I've been saying we're in March Madness. You got Iran. You're going to have FISA-gate information coming out. You're going to have 2020 election fraud information coming out. You got the SAVE Act. You have Epstein. It's all happening. All three movies playing simultaneously. Panic in DC, Guardians of the Pedophiles, and then FISA-gate. All three movies, March Madness. Welcome to it.
And we just crossed that 15,000 number over on Rumble. So shout out to you guys for continuing to share it. Well, in that case, I will play our last ad. And when we come back from this, unless you do have something and I don't interrupt, we'll get into Rumble.
And I completely lost my train of thought because you brought up that post, but it's okay. Oh, no, I know what I was going to say.
There you go. Fire.
So do you remember a little while ago, we were talking about Israel, Iran, the United States. And I said, look, Trump is going to rug pull Israel. Now, the same way that he did this back in 2025, you remember they were talking about, oh, this is going to be a longer war and Israel is ramping up for a ground invasion. And then Trump went in there, strategically bombed their nuclear facilities and said, done. Now forget about it and move on with life. And that's what happened until now. Well, what is Israel's biggest concern? Oh my God, they're going to get a nuclear missile and they're going to bomb everybody, right? I'm more worried about Israel having nuclear missiles than really Iran. But Witkoff has confirmed the U.S. destroyed all three of Iran's main nuclear enrichment and conversion centers. In other words, there is no uranium enrichment. There is no nuclear facilities. There is no nuclear weapons. Anything that was pouring out radiation signatures from satellite-based ISR-capable U.S. assets is destroyed.
Gonna have a hard time selling an argument for a ground invasion.
And you got to remember, people, you can dope uranium so that it gives off a signature so you can find out where it's located. Right? The U.S. typically does this with the uranium supply. Now, if you go back to how Iran got a lot of their uranium, because remember, they're under international sanctions since 79. They got a lot of the uranium from Russia, but where did Russia get it from? That came from the Barack Obama administration under Hillary Clinton with the Uranium One scandal, which was 30% of the U.S. uranium supply through a Canadian company known as Uranium One, who was basically authorized by Secretary Clinton to sell it to Russia, and Russia then was distributing it over to Iran. So we knew where this uranium was for a very long time.
People are so busted. You guys, we right here at the Badlands community. So there's two things. If you loved the content me and Josh put together, then definitely follow the other shows we did. And if you sat here for the last hour and a half and were like, these guys are completely retarded, well, don't abandon Badlands, because there are other people here that have different takes. There's a lot of content, a lot of different content creators here at the Badlands Media family. So make sure that you are watching the other shows. And with that, here's one of our own ads you guys will enjoy.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts. Still gonna go down.
AI is amazing still.
That's scary, bro. That is scary. In case you guys didn't know, that little leprechaun is one of our own. That is a real content creator. You guys can go catch Burning Bright and some of the other stuff. So with that, then, Josh, let me bring up the Rumble rants, and then I'll check for any super chats or boosts. And let me see right here. Like Kim K, we will start from the bottom now. We're here. Catherine 11 is now a monthly supporter. Thank you for joining the family, Catherine. $50 coming in from Breadmaker62. Shout out Breadmaker, who also gifted a total of 10 subscriptions tonight, too. Please keep our fellow Americans in your prayers tonight. Many tornadoes and bad storms across the country. Semper Fortis. Yeah, it did look like it was running all the way from the, the south mid, west area, all the way to the top.
Michigan to Nebraska. Yeah.
Yeah, that's covering a lot of territory. So yeah, definitely prayers for you guys out there. $5 from Soar47. Thank you guys. Fire. $10 coming in from RPG3573. Thoughts on the Iranian soccer team? Are you familiar with this one, Josh? This one's kind of sad, man.
I heard something of it. I know that the Iranian girls soccer team was in Australia, and Trump said if they go back to Iran, they're going to get killed. So Australia needs to step in and make sure that they don't go back to Iran, and they can send them to the United States of America, right?
That was it. And so what created this whole thing is, the girls refusing to, acknowledge the regime, during the ceremonies. And today, and it's in the chat, correct me, but as I understand it, Australia forced them to board on a plane a few hours ago, at least one of the last ones. And there's a photo of the girl looking through, or the young woman looking through the window. And it's one of those unfortunate photos that you would be like, that's what we're going to see on Time Life if this ends up on the other end. So I'm very curious if Trump's going to make some diplomatic calls, kind of like he did before the war kicked off, where he said, if you guys are going to hang some people, there's going to be problems. I wonder if we're going to see something that happens with this soccer team.
Well, who knows? Maybe that plane will just get MH370 to Diego Garcia.
I was wondering, what does he have the cojones to just intercept? Right? Air travel's been shut down to wherever it's going to, and then force a deviation, and then all of a sudden they get held in another airport while things get worked out. So let's definitely pray for that soccer team, because those women had courage.
I bet the plane lands in Israel.
$1 from Lisa 888. I trust the little I country as much as gas station sushi. Yeah.
Exactly.
I would never eat any food from a gas station outside of beef jerky. $2 from Fade Point. According to the New York Times, Pam Bondi was moved to military base housing. They're saying due to death threats. Thoughts? Love the show, gents.
Lots of the cabinet was.
And I will say this now, since that is this conversation actually happened several weeks ago.
Yep.
And I think she's actually been operating out of that base housing for a while already. $5 from Gal Todd. In case you haven't seen this, please watch. Holy crap, this song hits hard. Please trust me. Listen, we will, let me copy.
We've done this before.
We will copy this link and we will vet it, but ain't no way.
Throw it over. I'll vet it right now.
Here, let me drop it in the private chat. It takes a lot more than $5 for a trust me, bro. It's in the private chat. I'll keep going. $100 coming in from the Boom Diggity. Do y'all think this meeting is important? Article from today. All right, let me grab that one. and we'll look at that after the Rumble rants. So I'm going to drop this one in the chat too, so I don't lose it. There we go. All right, let's keep going. $100 again. Man, you guys dropping some cash tonight. Thank you. From Hope Continues. Another strong and informative show. Thanks for always pulling all the pieces together. You are true MAGA patriots. Thank you for that, Hope. Very, very, very thank you. $2 from the new Prue. I'm with you guys 100%. All will be revealed. The fly still in the ointment. However, is who, what will be done about it? I don't see the current DOJ or FBI suddenly becoming a one-tier justice system. A lot of the things have to be in alignment for timing. Timing is the most important thing that's being played out here, because even though there's all these different separations of government here, it's one plan. It's one plan with a bunch of built-in contingencies. And so what Trump's doing, this is part of the maneuver warfare, is all these different branches of the government all have to still align within the window of how he's going to deploy things. And as certain things either get delayed or accelerated, he has to look to the contingencies of those things, and it affects everything. So just timing. If you look at where we're at in 13 months, 14 months now, if I'm counting right, we've made huge strides. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Yep.
Because if they're telling you different, they're just either not informed on it or they're lying. You know, the other day I posted something of 100 things that he's already accomplished. And we would be happy with a quarter of that list over a president's 8 years of a presidency. And we've accomplished those things in 14 months with pushback.
And when people say that he's not following through with his promises of his campaign promises, go back and look at his campaign promises and what he actually said versus what they're claiming he said.
100% agree with you on that one. $10 from I Am Rosie 2. Thank you both.
I appreciate Rosie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that will end it for Rumble Rants.
And that video is going to be copyright, so for YouTube.
Okay. So we'll
unfortunately, but I'll share it with Alpha afterwards. And then the article, I did review that. Really interesting article. It's about Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, the president of Mexico, visiting Nordic countries and meeting with the known as the SEB and the Investor AB. So a large group of multinational conglomerates in the Nordic countries that control over $385 billion worth of annual revenue. And really what it is doing is strengthening Mexico's kind of infrastructure with trade and manufacturing and processing. So what it is basically Trump wants the Western Hemisphere strong. And in order to get the Western Hemisphere strong, you have to modernize, you have to build out infrastructure, and you have to bring about massive amounts of jobs and business revenue into these countries. And so Mexico, I think, is going to be one of those that many of us still perceive as a third world country, but is a very, very large one. And I know people are like, dude, Mexico's not a third world country. Yeah, it is. When you have guys driving scooters down the road with AK-47s and security guards in your banks with fully automatic weapons, you're a third world country. So, I love it.
When the federales are pulling you over at the party spots and saying, give me dinero or go to jail, you're probably in the third world.
Or when the federales are taking you because someone planted cocaine in a bathroom and someone that you don't even know picked it up, and just because you're the other gringo in the bar, they arrest you and take you to an underground parking garage, pull out 2 fold-up chairs out of the back of their police car, sit you in it, then cuff you to the back of it and put a 45 in your mouth and demand all your money. Then you're not in a first world country, in a third world country.
That's a lot of detail for a hypothetical, just saying.
True story.
Almost
closest I ever got to combat.
Well, it probably would be considered combat. Almost 16,000 people on Rumble, and with an audience that size, we are going to definitely. And we did have another Rumble rant come in, so I'll read this Rumble rant real quick. Ukruz or Ukruz, EWKRUSC, $100 freaking dollars on this Rumble rant. I live in Texas and asked y'all about Islam problems before. Do y'all think that they will get control over the Islamic invasion? Will they reverse all these mosques etc. Much love and respect, guys. I will say this. There are a group of people, and not just in Texas, but I can tell you from personal conversations with people that matter in this group, that are targeting areas where these groups operate out of, and they are empowering the locals in that area on how to approach this within their communities legally to push it out. And they have been absolutely successful in that. And I think as that gets a little bit more popular, you're going to see that take off. You know, they have to operate, you know, I don't want to say secrecy, but they do have to operate undercover. They can't just be putting their name out, because you guys know all the entities that would come after them to try to prevent them what they're doing. So just understand that there are a bunch of brilliant people coast to coast in this country that are addressing that specific problem. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Josh.
No, and you're right. I mean, trust me, this is going to be a long time until our country is healed. I think that certain people have said 10 years before we really kind of root all this problem out and get our culture back in place. So just understand that we have to fix the underlying problems that are persisting right now before we can begin the process of actually healing. 100%. You have to remove the thorn before the body can begin to heal.
Got that rock in your shoe. Got to get that rock before you run the marathon. So with that, folks, this Thursday, GART ticket holders' first exclusive live stream will be Thursday, March 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Link will be sent out by 1 p.m. Eastern on the 12th. Grab your virtual tickets for GART 11 in Nashville, Tennessee at a special early bird price until March 15th. 5 days, folks. 5 days. After that, the regular price kicks in, $40. So if you know you can't make it, now is the time to get that virtual ticket. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/events. badlandsmedia.tv/events to snag it now at the lowest price. You'll get invited into these private community chats. You'll develop all these friendships. We're in there interacting with people. It's a whole lot of fun. The very first private stream is this Thursday, so get in there. And Rocco Pally dropped in a $10 one. Gadzooks, you guys are good. Love it. But thank you for that, Rocco Pally.
All right.
I got us an exit video, so if you don't got anything, well, hold on. We got a big-ass audience. Tell them where they can find you, Josh, and I'll go next.
All right, for everybody out there, number one is follow Badlands where you are at right now. Alpha and I do this 2 nights a week on Badlands, Sunday nights at midnight, and then 10:30 Eastern time on Tuesday nights. And obviously the number one show on Rumble on Tuesday nights, and the number one show on Rumble on Sunday nights as well. So make sure that you guys are patching into us on those. Alpha and I do collaborate on another show that's Thursday nights. It's hosted on our own Rumble channels. And if you're looking for our Rumble channels, mine is Red Pill Project. Just type in Red Pill Project in the search bar. Red Pill, one word, project, another word, and I should come up. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. One with over, the one with a large amount of followers, other than the personal profile page. And then Alpha Warrior, just type in Alpha Warrior Show, all one word, because he doesn't know how to separate things in spaces. And you can find him out there in Rumble. If you want to go visit me, my link is actually right there, redpills.tv, redpills.tv, or on X at Real Joshua Reid, last name spelled R-E-I-D. And then Alpha, I can't reach over there, but I'm trying to, alphawarrior.tv. He used to have like the Alpha Warrior Show.com or .tv. And I'm like, why do you have it so long? Because that's the name of the show. And I'm like, dude, cut it down, make it small so people can memorize it. alphawarrior.tv. So I'm the one that got Alpha Warrior, that short little domain right there, just so everybody knows.
And I like it because before, when people would ask, what's your website? I'm like, you got to go to the alphawarriorshow.tv. Now it's not alphawarrior.tv. I'm like, oh, that is pretty nice. You guys do us a solid. Please, those links will be down in the description on whatever platform you're watching on. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, we're gonna have to say goodnight to you guys right now, because this video would probably trigger their algorithm. So just know, if you want to see it and you're watching on YouTube, run over to Rumble and you'll catch it on there. So good night to the folks on YouTube.